Alright, hello, my name is Jack Jones. I am currently working to get my associate's degree in education through the ASAP program offered through Ivy Tech. That program allows students to successfully complete their associate's degree or any 2-year program in, well, 11 months instead of 2 years. This certainly helped me with time. I started going to school at Cowan community schools, but then later on I heard about a school called the Indiana Academy for Science, Mathematics, and Humanities that really challenged students who were sort of at the top of their class. And luckily they saw it fit to let me enroll for some reason. And I graduated, and honestly, it's one of the best accomplishments I've ever made. I'm very proud of it. But while I was there, some of the things I had culminated, some of the projects that had culminated into that year was my Eagle Scout award. That took a long time to achieve it. I guess it took me about 10 years if you include Cub Scouts. But I finally did it utilizing one of my other hobbies, which is martial arts. I started that when I was 8, but I didn't start teaching it until I was 13. As part of the curriculum to get your black belt, you have to teach the lower classes for a certain amount of hours, and you sort of get the rank of sensei as black belt, because at that point you are able to teach martial arts. You have that authority. And I guess through spending that student teacher time and then teaching it for 5 years, it helped me to, I guess, become a teacher. I knew I worked well with kids since about 95% of the students were children. And I learned that I could teach. Even if I was a little rocky at first, I'm a lot better than what I used to be. Anyway, I'd like to share a little bit about my philosophy, and then I'll talk about 3 in-task standards and the artifacts that I have of those. As a teacher, I want my students to leave my classroom with a better sense of critical thinking and independence. Autonomy, you could say. I like that word. I guess when I was younger, it took me so long to finally, I guess, do things for myself. I am very motivated through extrinsic motivations, and it wasn't until recently where I've gained some intrinsic value for myself. And I want my students to have that. I want them to work hard and to learn for themselves and be able to analyze situations for themselves. That's something I've come to realize is super important, and I know I've wanted it for so long, and I didn't know it, but I finally achieved that, and I want my students to embody that as well, and hopefully someday help others embody that too. Anyway, let's move on to my standards. Let's start with standard 7. The standard 7 reads, the teacher plans instruction that supports every student in meeting rigorous learning goals by drawing upon knowledge of content areas, curriculum, cross-disciplinary skills, and pedagogy, as well as knowledge of learners and the community context. In my Education 240 Introduction to Physical and Health Education for Teachers, I created a grant proposal for a building in the community that I thought that solved a problem that the group thought the community needed it to be solved. Sorry, stumbled my words there. This particular problem was funding for teachers. While we didn't really want to make a bunch of fundraisers, we wanted to sort of help a different problem connected to it, which is teachers have some money to spend on their classroom, but they may not have the money to spend on some really cool equipment that not most public school children don't have. So we put together a grant proposal to purchase a large building sort of in the corner of Muncie and towards the middle of Delaware County. It's close to several other school districts, and so we wanted everyone, as many people as we could, to utilize this building. We also put together a lesson to go with it. Students sort of role played as slaves during the height of antebellum slavery who were trying to escape through the Underground Railroad. So we learned some of the signs and some of the tricks that people in the Underground Railroad used, and also learned about some of the hardships that the runaways went through in order to successfully escape to the north to freedom. That was a fun part of this assignment. But I guess this assignment was a rude awakening for me. I had told about some other projects that took so much time to complete, and I completed those, but I had a lot of help, a lot of outside help. And here I only had a little bit of help from my teachers and a lot of help from my peers. And we did this in 4 weeks. That was overwhelming, to say the least. We put together a huge lesson plan. It was about 40 minutes in total, and with this being our first semester of actually taking education classes, it was hard. This project felt like it was insurmountable. It seemed like this giant mountain, and I could only peer up at it, but eventually we knocked it down. This trial helped me to understand John Dewey's theory of learning by action, because I learned a lot by getting thrown into the deep end. And while I had other people to help me in this deep end, and my instructor threw a couple metaphorical floaties at us, we were able to accomplish this grand goal. And I think I can extend that understanding to my students. Getting told stuff can work a little bit, but really experiencing something, that's something that I don't think can be taught. I guess it's learned. So anyway, this artifact demonstrates my competency in Standard 7 because I worked with a group to accomplish a goal that we believe our community needed to be achieved. Not only did we work with my peers, with each other, but we worked with other members of the community. I guess this picture shows all of our partners that we received assets from. It's a pretty long list. We would have had to communicate with all of these people and work together, and that cannot always be easy. Let's see. We also created a lesson plan that covered 4 different subjects. It was physical education predominantly, but then social studies and science and literacy were included in it as well. It was a lot of fun implementing this, and I really hope that some of my other projects are like it. Next is in Task Standard 3. The teacher works with others to create environments that support individual and collaborative learning and that encourage positive social interaction, active engagement in learning, and self-motivation. In my Education 230 class, The Exceptional Child, that I took in the spring of 2020, I built a lesson plan as part of an IEP that some of my peers and I worked together on. It was for a fictional child who had autism spectrum disorder. And I guess my part in this, one of my parts in this, I should say, was to create this lesson plan for this student. He was with an entire class, of course, but I wanted to incorporate him as best I could while making this sort of a natural experience for everyone else. It was kind of difficult, but eventually I think it worked out. Um, whew, through through designing this, I helped. I was able to help this student in particular, learn and accomplish some of his goals. We worked together to decide some like what this theoretical student's goals would be if he had these special characteristics, and the my team decided that two goals that he could work on are better social interaction and better literacy skills. He had trouble in social situations, and his English and literacy grades were pretty low. So I made a literacy lesson plan that not only helped him to read in front of his friends, but also to, um, well, I guess improve his fluency. There was a lot of time put into this to kind of find each individual point where this could go wrong. And since this child has some specific social problems, we I came up with a plan to have a folder. This was a pretty good idea. We had a folder, and if he started feeling anxious, if I noticed that as the teacher, I could hand to him the folder and say, okay, deliver this to the office and come back when you're done. Um, this gave him some time to cool off and kind of get his bearings again, since he was um, doing some goals that put him way out of his comfort zone. And to sort of help with that, I distanced when he would be put out of his comfort zone in the lessons. So we did this twice. Once when he was reading with friends, and the other time during the fluency test. So I made sure to distance that out a bit so that he wouldn't get overwhelmed. This, let's see. This shows my competence in task standard 3, because I worked with a team to help this one child learn. He had some pretty specific specific ways of learning, and I tried to cover those as best as I could. Um, I worked with other members in the school and a little bit in the community as well to help this student, and we all took roles of these, and we switched off too. And we not only did we come up with good ways to help this student, but we also found kind of a friend in this kid. It seems kind of weird since he wasn't even real, but we all kind of liked him. We were on his side. And I guess that goes with Yuri Brofenbrenner's ecological systems theory. I guess we make up some of the adults in this kid's life, the student's life, I should say, and we helped him out. And any student that has adult friends and people that can help him through his challenges, those children have proved to be much more efficient in their learning and in life itself. Alright, last but not least, standard 1. And that is the teacher understands how learners grow and develop, recognizing that patterns of learning and development vary individually within and across cognitive, linguistic, social, emotional, and physical areas, and designs and implements developmentally appropriate and challenging learning experiences. In my Education 121 class, Child and Adolescent Development, I worked with my 16-year-old sister to in a case study and associated lesson plan. I worked with her parents and I analyzed her environment to figure out something that she could work on. And I decided that she could work a little better on on her mindset, I guess. This sort of goes with Carol Dweck's theory of the growth mindset, in that people in general who utilize a growth mindset can push past their barriers and grow in intelligence in any other area that they put their mind to. I did this by throwing Dana in a situation that she's never really been in before, and one that is sort of random, but showed her that she could apply this to anything. I put her in the situation of learning how to beat a specific part in a video game that she has no experience with. She's never played the game, let alone a game like it, and it was really challenging for her. This was sort of like the first challenge area in the game, but people wouldn't come across it until they had about 6 to 8 hours in the game already. And Dana did it with about 10 minutes of skill. I learned how to help Dana direct her frustration. It was kind of hard, and the Jones blood runs hot, you could say, but she recognized this and didn't like it. So she utilized her frustration to make her more productive. She did get frustrated, and she did have to go and sit down on the bench for a while and think about what she needed to do. But eventually she did get it, and both of us were just surging with, I guess, the determination that she brought on from it. This helped me demonstrate competence in Standard 1 in that I spoke with Dana's parents. I analyzed her environment in order to sort of figure out what she needed. I learned about Dana's development and how she grew up and sort of what little characteristics and parts of her past that molded her into who she is now. And some of those helped her develop some good traits and some bad. And I think I helped her to alleviate some of the problems that she would have faced with that negative trait of a fixed mindset. I helped her develop some of her cognitive functions, and I helped her to improve her vocabulary a little bit too, and to utilize the power of yet. It's nothing's sure, even failure, unless you say that it's sure and you give up. I helped Dana to see that. Anyway, that concludes my demonstration. If you have any questions, I'm happy to hear them. Thank you.